my mind.
Somebody in a parachute has just landed on the edge of the ring. Holyfield bit by a dirty Mike Tyson.
Hello and welcome to episode 67 of the award-winning combat sports podcast, The Boxing Show, with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, same shit every week. I'm joined by the usual twosome of Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke as we review this weekend's action and look forward to this weekend's shows. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah,
Good, thanks.
Good. Busy
Better than
weekend?
you. You're a bit under the weather, I think.
Yeah,
aren't
I'm not feeling great, so it's even more reason for people to stay
It's
away
hard
from
to
me
tell because
today.
you saw the shape and you always look good anyway.
I think that is actually probably one of the reasons. Like,
It's
this
disguise,
wouldn't
isn't it?
take down actually, to be fair, you know, when you always hear fighters say, you know, the more physically fit you are, the more likely you are to
The
pick
more
something
finely
up.
tuned you are.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. And it's just so my perfectly finely tuned
I think that's
body,
probably it.
just a little bit, it's just taken me out of the game. You see. So yeah.
It's eating pizza out the bin. That's your problem.
You're such a well calibrated instrument, basically, that the slightest alteration to the force and everything goes to shit.
There's
Yeah.
about 6 words I didn't understand.
It's certainly gone to shit, but anyway, I went to shit a long time ago, other than this weekend. But yeah, this weekend I mentioned to you, Andy, beforehand. You were.
Let me put the invoice in before you have
That's okay. Yeah.
something like that. Like.
No pro boxing. Well, it is pro boxing for you this weekend, but you weren't at the DAZN card. You were covering the IBA show.
I was the IBA Pro
Gassiev?
Series. Yeah, Gassiev, Murat Gassiev against Kem Lundqvist. They're doing more and more of these shows now, IBA, and they entitle it Champions Night, but it's a pro series. It is kind of interesting because IBA Pro is a category that has turned up on people's BoxRec records. So currently they don't go on their out-and-out pro record. There's an IBA Pro subset, if you like. So somebody like Batagaziev, who I've seen fight twice recently, in the summer he boxed John O'Carroll for the WBA super featherweight interim title. That's on his out-and-out pro record because that was at super featherweight at 130 pounds. Last time I saw him was a couple of weeks ago in Russia, and he was boxing for the IBA 60 kilo IBA Pro title because the IBA Pro weights are the same as their amateur weights, so they don't quite correspond with out-and-out pro weights. So it's interesting what they're doing with it, but I think they're going to do more and more of it because I think they feel that there's a market there in Central Asia and Eastern Europe, Russia in particular, because we all know what the problems are for Russian athletes of any description at the minute, where they can pick up and take into the pros really good amateurs, because quite a lot of Uzbeks, for example, headed for the States, didn't they, after Rio. I wouldn't say it's really worked necessarily. So that's the kind of foray they're making. But top of the bill, and they're making good matches too. There was some good undercard fights on that show between fighters that most people will never have heard of, but a couple of Armenian kids who were good. David Chalian, a heavyweight.
Yeah, I remember him from the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Beat Delicious Ori, then got knocked out in the next round. But top of the bill, yeah, was Gassiev and Lundqvist, and that was set at pro heavyweight. And he looked slow from the start, Gassiev, to be honest with you, really did. He was kind of there for the taking, and if Lundqvist had some confidence and set his feet and just let his hands go a bit more, I think he could really have done something, but he just allowed him to feel his way into the fight and then got taken out with a body shot. Gassiev needs to kick on now because he lost that fight to Otto Wallin, and he would have watched Wallin then get the fight with Joshua, and he'll have spent a year kind of kicking himself.
How old is he now?
31. He
Yeah,
looks
he's been around forever.
tough paper round.
he's been around
Tough
forever.
paper round. He looks older than that,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying he is, but he looks it.
It's never really happened for him post cruiserweight, has it? Well,
No,
he moved up
absolutely
to
not. He's
heavyweight.
basically boxed once a year. He's had 6 fights in 6 years, I think. And the one that he really needed to win, Wallin, he lost. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with him.
They're also doing the IBA and WBA Bridgerweight unification, aren't they? Between Muslim Ghazi Magomedov, the WBA Bridgerweight champion, and Julio Cesar La Cruz, who is the IBA champion. A rematch of the Tokyo Olympic final of a few years ago.
Yeah, and these are the kinds of fights that they can make.
What distance is that?
Over 12 rounds.
Oh, wow.
Over 12. It's all highly political, like everything in the sport is, basically. But it's something that they're really looking to branch out with, IBA. The situation with amateur boxing, I think, is going to become clearer over the next few months. But the IOC are going to back or sanction, however you want to describe it, World Boxing, who've got a World Youth Championships starting this week. IBA are in the middle of their own. So you've got these two separate factions. I get the feeling that IBA are looking at the amateur situation and thinking to themselves, it doesn't really matter what we do. We have no relationship with the IOC. We'll just keep arranging our tournaments and stay in the game and hope that over time something can change, which I think is probably the sensible thing to do. I think what we might get is for LA, assuming boxing stays in for LA, which I believe it will,
Yeah, I think so.
the IOC will have to be, I think, okay with a situation where not all of the best boxers are going to be there. If you have this two separate entities, basically, never the twain shall meet if you decide not to go with World Boxing. And there's loads of complications for national boxing federations and national Olympic committees, and there's all sorts of things. We could be here all day talking
But we've
about
had
it.
that before, haven't we?
Yeah, we
You know
have.
what I mean? Like, you know,
We have.
with, you know,
Yeah, and
Cubans couldn't enter.
Yeah,
Americans
exactly.
didn't go to,
Exactly.
Didn't go to the Olympics.
That's a perfect example, because I think what we could get in LA is kind of the equivalent in the boxing of a boycotted Olympics. But so long as
actually, it was LA the last time, wasn't it? Cubans didn't go to
LA
before.
84, yeah, and then Cuba and a few other countries for some, decided not to go to Seoul in 88 either, which, made a whole generation of brilliant fighters just had no Olympics, which was terrible.
The
But
Olympics won't care because they just want marketable fighters, won't they? I mean, they want good competition. You want the best, obviously, but I mean, they'll look at it, especially for American TV companies. They'll want Western fighters to be winning everything, I think.
at the LA games.
At the LA games.
If the
American fighters to win everything.
Yeah.
I mean, to produce
Yeah.
stars from it. I think that's why it stays in the Commonwealth Games. They've cut back the Commonwealth Games, haven't they, on all their sports? Have you seen it? They've streamlined it massively for Glasgow in 2026.
I think that's because it's just really expensive to put the Commonwealth Games on,
Yeah.
and increasingly now they have to rely on either the United Kingdom, Australia, India or Canada to host it, because nobody else can afford it.
Yeah.
Because
Well, it was meant to be Melbourne, wasn't it?
it's a multi-sport tournament, isn't it? And of course, Australia as well. It's a multi-sport tournament, and it's just really, really expensive to do. But we'll keep our eye on it as and when there are any developments. But I feel like that's what will probably happen. And as long as boxing stays in the Olympics, then over time things will remedy themselves. But it's already a different world, isn't it? And it has been for the last 10 years, 10 years pretty much now, whereby pros are allowed to compete at the Olympics. And that hasn't had the devastating effect on it that people thought it would.
No.
That people would just switch back in for a quick bit of 3-round action, smash everybody
Beating up
up,
kids.
take an Olympic gold medal, laugh their head off and run back into the pros. That hasn't happened.
And let's not forget, there was a time when all these, when there was the Soviet Union, none of those fighters turned pro anyway. So all those great fighters now that we're getting from that region of the world who are dominating amateur boxing, so it seems, you know better than me, of course, and so would you. You follow it more than I do. They wouldn't have got the opportunity anyway. So even if they were winning medals in the Olympics, it didn't matter to our professionals. I know that sounds a bit callous. We want everyone to give an opportunity to flourish, but ultimately, they couldn't turn pro. Even if they won a gold, then it didn't matter to the professional game, because we just took the silver medalist and made him a star.
Yeah, that's it. And you look at you look at the Uzbeks who dominated the men's in Paris, and American promoters have tried it. Jalolov's a good example. Top Rank, I'd imagine, are probably running out with patience with him. He needs to commit to pro boxing now, but he's just one example. They tried it with a good few fighters, and it hasn't really worked. You get the odd one. Golovkin had to work really hard to establish himself in America.
That took a long time, though, didn't
Kazakh
it?
fighter, yeah, it took a really, really long time. You get the odd one who's got that kind of, who gets that backing, and they've got that kind of mystique around them, personality-wise, that really works. Usyk's got it at the minute, but it doesn't work for everybody because you can't have everybody like that. They need to be a kind of outlier. So a route into the pros for, fighters from countries where, as you said previously, they didn't go pro. That's a good thing, just so long as everybody can end up fighting each other. But that's what we wanted forever, isn't it? And periodically it happens, and periodically it doesn't. So
That's
we'll see.
our extremely hardcore start to the show
I'll tell you,
this week.
wasn't it?
The
Yeah.
IBA.
Very quickly for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If you were a young amateur boxer now in the GB, you'd be like, oh, this is brilliant. Keep them out the way.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to fight the best.
No
prove you're the best.
Cubans.
But yeah,
Sound. Right. Anyway, so that was our IBA and amateur boxing roundup. But we will now go over to Mr. Barry Jones, who was, of course, in attendance in Manchester at the brand spanking new Co-op Live Arena.
Great arena.
For Jack Catterall.
Forget about the fight.
Forget about the fight. You just want to talk about the arena?
The outdoors, because they, I think it's all like digital screens outdoors.
Okay.
Like
the sphere, like sort of.
No,
thing.
but it's like a rectangular building. But I mean, on the so you've got like a wall. Then on top of it there, where they put the advertisement, I think you can do your own advertisement. So it had Matchroom on the outside, and it had like the zone. But I was talking to the guy in the truck when I do like Before the Bell, and the little YouTube thing they do as well, and I was saying, oh, get my name up there. I'd love to go. And he said, we can do that. They didn't do it, but they said they could have done it. So they could have had my name on the outside. It would have been brilliant. Like,
Yeah, that would
but what I'm
be great.
saying is, like, if we go there again, we could, like, for a couple of quid, you know people, don't you? Because you're a bit of a snake, slimy, like. No offence. But like, no. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having this channel, would you? You've done something.
Hey, just get to the point, Barry.
Dodgy to be where you are not today, haven't you? No, but you could have like don't forget to watch the boxing show on Monday.
Could do that. Yeah.
Do
Well, I think
like
I think one day we should strive to get a photo of you or a picture of your face on the Sphere in Vegas. So it's just Barry Jones's head.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
It's what the people want, isn't
And
it?
all they have is McGuigan responding to like tweets going, no, it's not me, it's Barry Jones.
Yeah. Shout out Dan Canobio.
How did it go with?
It's a really good venue.
I mean, it looked really good.
So you go through the door and you go, this can't be very big. When you get in there, it's very steep.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And also,
It looked like
they
it.
didn't fill it out. So all the top of it was curtained off.
Yeah.
But because it's steep, it was so well done.
Yeah, it
you
looked good on
couldn't
TV.
even notice it. Yeah.
It looked good on TV.
But-
It was
but it
difficult
was-
to work
but it
out
was
how
bu-
many.
but it was
I mean,
busy.
I reckon it looked like there was. I was trying to work it out because I thought I know this space is 23.5, but then you take one end off for the boxing, for the ring walks and that kind of stuff, so that cuts it off, and that obviously upper bowl is bigger than the lower one. But it looked to me like there was probably like a good 6,000 or 7,000 there.
I think there was more than that.
A bit more than that.
I think so, but I'm not very good at that
But
stuff.
that's a good
Barry
crowd.
Yeah.
trying to stay in favour of DAZN.
But that's
At
a good
least
crowd.
That was about
12,000.
15, 18,000, something like that. You know what
Yeah, I was
mean?
going to say
And there's
it
people
looked
outside
to
couldn't
me-
get in.
It looks to me like there was at least kind of 6 or 7, maybe a bit more. And
But-
that's good.
But I think he's
That's a
found.
very healthy crowd.
And it was it's always tricky with Catterall because he's never been a massive seller, and because of his style, the way he used boxes, and then and the Taylor fight sort of put him into the fall a little bit, but that's without the dance partner. And even though Regis Prograis is a big name, but he's not the massive name outside of the sport to drag anyone else in. So it was always so he sold on off his own back, and I thought he did. No, I think he did really well. I think he got a little home there that he can build from after that performance. Certainly, I think
1,000 confused Michael Gomez Jr. fans in there. What the
Oh, bless! Oh, amazing! So I felt sorry for everyone. In that,
Yeah,
in that
we'll
situation.
come on to that.
But anyway,
let-
the fight
yeah,
itself.
Let's talk about the main event.
It took a while to get going, but when it went going, it was brilliant. I mean, it was technically superb. I thought, really, really cagey. Both of them no one to make a mistake, knowing if they did, they were going to get caught. And the Catterall went down first, but it's weird. We called Prograis the puncher, but he got put down against Haney, but got put down more times against Catterall. But he caught Catterall on the shoulder. Catterall was throwing, he got knocked over. But
Yeah, it was one of those where it was like by the letter of the
Yeah.
law, it's a knockdown, but it's not.
yeah,
you
but
know.
the knockdowns for Catterall were brilliant. They were fantastic, so well timed. The first shot was really well timed, straight down the middle. But the second shot, he dipped down with the shoulder, he dipped the elbow up and chopped down with it. And I'd tell you, if that was like in the middle of the round, I think he might have stopped Prograis. I mean, Prograis knows how to survive and he's tough, but I think that really shook him up. And it was at the end of the round, and then the next round, then he sort of Catterall let him off the hook a bit, because he's such a thinker that he just thought, I don't take a risk. But to be fair, he showed a little bit of everything, Jack Catterall. A little bit of everything. I think he showed that brain, and he showed a little bit of you're not doing enough as well. That frustrated him at times. But then he showed bravery when he had to. He threw with Prograis sometimes when he didn't have to, I didn't think, but he wanted to. But he was just a step ahead of him. Faster, quicker, heavier hand in the end. What Catterall is stronger than what he looks. Physically stronger than what he looks. Actually, he does look strong. He's got big shoulders, haven't he? But I mean, you don't see him, you don't think of Catterall as a strong fighter, I don't think, when you think about him. Just think he's a boxer who can bang a little bit of good timing, very patient. You don't think of him as physically strong, and I think he is. And he showed that against Josh Taylor. And he showed it against Regis Prograis on Saturday night. And yeah, I think that was his best performance. I think it was brilliant. And where does he go now? I mean, who wants to fight him now? I mean, I think that sold him. I do. I think that sold him as an attractive prospect. The Jorge Linares fight was meant to sell him. It was a fight on paper he couldn't really lose because the guy was past his sell-by date. They were still a good fighter, but not good enough to beat a really in-prime super lightweight. And he coasted. And I thought, and I remember I had an argument with Sonny Edwards on the stage after, and he was saying, well, if he would have done that against Devin Haney, we'd be praising him. And I said, but it's not Devin Haney. It's an older version of a really good featherweight, super featherweight.
That doesn't really work, that argument, does it?
So, he had a chance to sell himself as an attractive prospect, not just a guy who's awkward to beat. So, it's all about money, innit? When you get to that level, it's all about what your worth is, not how good you are anymore. That's gone now. It's all about what your worth is. And I think that sold him, because that was an attractive fight to watch. The second half of the fight was a brilliant fight to watch, I thought.
Very much a fight of two halves, and I remember speaking to you during it. The first six rounds, 5 rounds. Obviously, there was the knockdown. You were working. You're a professional, Barry. I know you would never have your phone out while you work. But yeah, a fight very much of two halves, Andy. I mean, for the first 5 or 6 rounds, it kind of looked like a more traditional Jack Catterall fight, but then exploded into life, scored those 2 knockdowns in the 9th round, and one probably a little bit wider than I had it, and certainly a lot of other people had it on the scorecards, but 116-109 twice and 117-108. Very, very clear win for Jack Catterall on the night.
Yeah, I would have had it probably 114-111, so 7-5 in rounds, I reckon. It was kind of a strange fight in a way, because, as you say, it was roughly speaking a fight of two halves. It was cagey to start with, 2 good fighters. Nobody wants to overcommit and make obvious errors. And then towards the end, it kind of was a bit of a slugfest, really, because Prograis knew, certainly in the last couple, and then he had the problem with the leg, that he needed something big. But a good fight is one where it swings back and forth, and I felt that that's what we got, because when Catterall put him down twice to get that 10-7 round, for me, he was behind at that point, and he needed something. He needed a big finish, and he provided a big finish, because from that point onwards, he won every round. I can't remember exactly how I scored it. I think I gave Prograis 6 and 7, and then maybe Catterall everything after that.
He had those middle rounds,
something
didn't he?
like that.
Prograis had those middle rounds where it looked like he just hit his straps a little bit.
Yeah, and at that stage, I was looking at Catterall, and I wasn't feeling like he was running out of ideas. But you look at a fighter's face or body language sometimes, and he's pretty blank, Catterall. He doesn't really give anything away. But I was thinking to myself, he's got to find something here, because the momentum, it's just beginning to shift against him, and there's not that long left, long enough, but not that long. So it was good. It was really enjoyable. It'd be great to see him just get the opportunity, because you always felt with someone like him, president of the Who Needs Him Club and all the rest of it, that what you need to do if you're in that position is be patient, work your way to the top of the rankings, get that opportunity, and then take it. And almost everybody felt he did that against Josh Taylor, and he didn't get the decision, and therefore you're not undisputed. You don't defend the belts and make a shitload of money. You have to start again almost and work your way back up again. So I don't know whether anybody with a belt's really going to fancy it with Jack Catterall, but hopefully they'll be put in a position where it won't matter whether they fancy it or not. They'll have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie Hearn was talking about after the fight. They've obviously got Liam Parrow, who beat Subriel Matias. He's defending his world title against Richardson Hitchens. It would seem as though the winner of that fight could be
in Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico, massive Puerto Rican fan base, Richardson Hitchens. Imagine travelling as an Australian as well. But anyway, I'm sure there's a very good reason for it. But it would seem, Barry, that the winner of that could very well be next for Jack Catterall.
That's what you'd think, because it's in-house, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it should be an easier fight to make. And also, both of those would come to the UK. Would have to come to the UK. It's pretty, you would think.
You would think. I would imagine. I don't know. Hitchens has headlined in the States. Parrow, I think the only headline he's done in America is in Australia is Brock Jarvis, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't
Where
think
did he box?
If you
the guy, the guy who had the dog with the jacket. What's his name? He beat Ivan Barancek. No, he beat Ivan Barancek. What am I talking about? Oh.
I think Parrow would come here. I think Hitchens would be a lot more difficult to get here. Americans generally don't come here unless
He doesn't come. I'm not sure. Montana Love.
Oh, Montana.
And that was in America, not.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. Bring a dog down to the ring with like a 10 grand jacket on.
But the fact that Parrow's coming had to travel twice, to win the title, understandably, but to defend it again as well. They would tend to say his fan base is not huge in Australia, but then if they're not building it, it's not going to be huge yet. And Hitchens, even though he might have headlined, he's not going to sell 10,000 seats, is he?
No,
Exactly, I think Jack Catterall maybe more would go actually
for a world title.
I think maybe 15 plus. To be honest, I think that's his stock would have grown from there. Plus with a good undercard of fighters on the bill as well, like get Gomez, Bellotti again. You know what I mean? I think that's even spicier now, isn't it? But yeah. You tend to fight, and it's a winnable fight. They're both either one of those. They're both difficult in their own right, but they're winnable fights for Jack Catterall. I think goes in a favourite. I think Jack Catterall now is as rounded as a professional he could possibly be. I think he's at his peak. He's 31. I think
thereabouts.
He
has been around for ages.
Forever. I remember watching
Boxing Nation days.
Nathan Bruff. And he was like the opponent almost after. They both undefeated, but it was like really in his career. I always remember I kept calling him Jake Catterall the whole fight. I don't know what happened there.
He's 31, he's just turned 31.
There's not that many miles on the clock with him though.
No, he's not really any punishing hard
fights. And what I've always been really impressed with by him is that his out of ring demeanour and personality seems completely the same as what you see inside the ring. He's been really patient. He's never really complained. I know Josh Taylor had fun with him after that first fight about calling the police and all the rest of it, and it was mentioned in Parliament, but he just seems to understand the business that he's in, and that you need to just persevere, you need to stick at it, you need to never get too high or too low, and just believe that if you keep going then you can make things happen for yourself. I think temperamentally he seems really suited to what is an incredibly frustrating and often unrewarding career.
Yeah.
Not wishing to be too grim about it, but at times it really can be.
Boxing
he's
your life,
he's stayed the course, isn't he? He's stayed the course, and he is ability-wise at a high level, and nobody. I don't think people were questioning it particularly before Saturday, but nobody can really question it. He belongs at that top level.
Like boxing could change your life. Like most kids from working class environments and below, and it changes your life. It gives you something. Not everyone that walks away with loads of money. I mean, most don't. Almost anybody doesn't, but some do. Luckily, and if you can get a house, like Teddy Flanagan, he bought a couple of houses, I think, and he did quite well. He's not a rich man, but he did quite well. And from where he grew up, it's just an example for a Manchester fighter. He was going nowhere. His life was going nowhere. My life was going nowhere. I wouldn't have been a drug dealer or a thief or a murderer or nothing like that, hopefully. I mean, but I would have just lived a normal, I don't want to say mundane life, that's disrespect for the people.
But compared to the one you did live, it would have been.
Yeah, the things I'm where I am doing what things I'm doing now. So the boxing's put me where I am now. That's why I'm thankful for it. But also, it sucks your soul out of you. I mean, and quickly as well. And you go whoosh, and it's like it's cruel because it shows you stuff like this. Look at all you can have, and then it goes fuck off. like within seconds, and it shows you again. So you go, well, I won't be fooled. Like promoters are the best bit. I won't be fooled twice. The promoter tells you something, and then you find out it's not quite true. It's their job to sell you the dream, to get you to sign with them or get you to do what you want to do. I understand that. And then you go, yeah, and it don't happen. You go, I don't fucking trust that. I won't trust him, or I won't trust that again. And then literally next week they do the same thing. You go, yeah. Because I remember saying with boxing, you have to be the internal dreamer. You have to, because you have to be there, because to get from where you start to where you end up, some of them, that path is invisible. It don't exist. You have to you carve it yourself. But belief in it is almost as bigger than the ability to do it. You have to just believe in yourself. So like it can suck your soul, and that what happened to Catterall against Josh Taylor. No one's not. Everyone thinks when you say it, you got something against Josh Taylor. He had nothing to do with it. He just boxed. He just fought a fight, but no one thought he won. But like that, because he'll never be undisputed champion, Jack Catterall. That'll never happen for him. I'm pretty sure. And he hasn't won a world title yet, so you might never be a world champion. By the way, I think he will. But what if he doesn't? And you just go, that cost me. If he could sue somebody, the lawsuit would be. I'd be asking for 100 million. I would. I go, well, because you can, like, me and Buncey did this in the car on my home on Saturday. You could, like, go, well, my next fight would have been against Teofimo Lopez, undisputed, and then I'm boxing Devin Haney, and then I'm boxing, what's the...
Javante Davis?
No.
Ryan
Garcia for the huge fight in America.
Million, yeah.
And Saudis come along, so that would have upped everything.
And you go, but Buncey said this, I'd be asking for that. The lawsuit would be that much, bam. And you go, cause like 4 fights on the line, I'm worth 50, 60 million, 100 million. I was like, and he's not... Like it's a dream, but you can see it, can't you? You know what I mean? That would have changed his life forever. I mean, financially and everything. And he's one of the few guys. He'd who become like who would ever be an undisputed champion in the UK.
Englishman. Well, in the 4-belt era.
In the 4, yeah.
Everybody loves that.
So it's just like he's creating history, and he becomes one of the greatest fighters we ever have on paper, and like changes his life, doesn't he? He's a superstar and blah 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 blah, all that crap. But mainly money.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it's easy to overlook that as fans. We can think about the glory more than the practicalities, but it is, you don't make money winning the title, you make money defending it, or titles if you're undisputed particularly, and that's just the reality of it. And that's why, for example, it was great to see John Ryder close out his career with a fight against Canelo, which would have been really good money, hopefully, and Munguia, which again would have been good money, because a lot of people thought he beat Callum Smith, but he didn't get it. And again, the real downside to that is that means you aren't world champion, which would have been something that he would always have wanted, but you don't get to defend the belt, because that's where you make the money. So to see him kind of make the money at the end was great.
I mean, he boxed Canelo as a mandatory challenger rather than in a unification fight.
Yeah.
He would, like Callum Smith did. Straight after the John Ryder fight.
Difference.
Yeah, it is a big difference.
But you know what?
Jack Catterall needs to consult the fine legal minds of Bunce, Jones and partners. Just send your emails in.
You don't have to sue that, but I mean, just if I was just for sure. But I do think that but he has a mental toughness that we overlook, I think, and he shows that in, like you said, shows in the ring, shows it outside the ring, because even though he felt sorry for himself, like you should, it hasn't affected his performances. I always thought he was I covered most of his early career, and I always thought he was a really talented kid, but I never thought he'd make it to this. I just didn't, because I always used to say about him all the time, like, sometimes he wants to look good rather than be good. He always coasts fights too often, like he did against Linares. He coasted that fight, didn't want to take a risk, and I understand why, there's bigger fights ahead, but he did that early in his career. You remember he boxed some Argentinian, and he looked brilliant, and then just went, I'm just going to do enough now, and it was like, come on.
Quite so many of his fights, and even this past weekend, he'll have a fighter hurt, and then what he did in the 10th round, he didn't really put his foot on the gas because he didn't need to, and he's happy at doing enough at a level.
But he can do it. So if you're like someone like me, like
Tyron McKenna was a good example of that.
But when you haven't got the raw power, like, he has power as well, I think. And
he can punch.
And real good timing. So like and he's physically strong. Like that's what I've noticed in the last few fights. So like, he could bully people and he could beat them and stop them because he's done it. But like, when you haven't got it, fair enough, you haven't quite got it, so you can try it, but you're taking too much of a risk. But for him, it's not, because he has that intelligence. So he's a really intelligent fighter. There's a lot to like about him, but it's quite often he's coasted fights, and I've always found that frustrating. Yeah. And also something that might have held him back. Yeah,
it doesn't help sell you, does it?
But he's proved us wrong, and I think, and he is a sellable product, and he's starting to realise now that I have to go for it a bit. And I think him being knocked on first helped.
Yeah, because it made him. I mean, as much as the scorecards were very, 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 very kind of in the favour of Jack Catterall, Jamie Moore in the corner was kind of saying, "Look, we're behind. We need to do this. We need to push forward." As Catterall said afterwards, so it did light that fire underneath him. Though. Yeah,
he needs to keep him sharp and all that without taking a silly risk. Look, so we had Tony Bellows. Like, so when you put scorecards up, you're going to get people batter you. I know that.
Yeah, it's
like,
we've all had experience of that.
You always get that. But like,
for
me and Andy, Lee would commentate. Andy was brilliant Saturday, by the way. Wanker. And then so was Mike Costello. Let's not forget that. I thought he was fantastic. So was I. No, but anyway, it was like we looked at Tony's car and went, that's a bit wide. But he wasn't that far off the judges, really. To be fair, like, you know what I mean? Like, we had a lot closer. We did. I think, like without the knockdowns, that's a real close fight.
I always like to use every opportunity to plug the app, as we all know. Remember, download now. The Boxing News app average score was 113, 112. The general feeling was 114, 111, so it's a round wider than that.
I don't think there was
6 rounds a piece or 7-5.
I didn't have any doubt at the end that Catterall had won.
Yeah, no, me neither.
None.
Just before we move on and discuss the rest of the card, one name that was shouted out, Andy, going to come to you first, by Eddie Hearn in the post-fight, of course. We mentioned Liam Parrott and Richardson Hitchens. Oh, it's a nightmare to say, particularly when you're not very well. Teofimo Lopez.
Stupid.
Yeah, and it goes on and on and on. Richardson Hitchens. Anyway, but Eddie Hearn talking about Teofimo Lopez versus Jack Catterall. Now, I think we understand that the Parrott Hitchens winner is probably more likely because of the political kind of infrastructure. But what a fight that would be, Teofimo Lopez and Jack Catterall.
It would be. However,
I say what a fight.
If I were advising Teofimo Lopez, I would advise him to swerve that. Not because I think Jack Catterall will strike fear into the heart of Lopez and that Jack Catterall would definitely beat him. Lopez is a terrific fighter when he's on it. I just think that Jack Catterall stylistically wouldn't be good for him. And I think also, with the greatest respect to Jack, name-wise, he is made for Lopez not to take him as seriously as he might and turn in the kind of performance we've seen from him in the past. So if I was in the Lopez camp, I would be saying, this is not one for us.
Sorry,
there we
go.
All right, mate.
It's bad set dressing there.
Tio, it wasn't me, it was him.
There we go.
Does that make sense, though?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't read that shit.
Cheers, man.
Ironically, what a fight that was. I do agree with you, but I think the fight that he had now just against Prograis just now, I think that might have changed the attitude a little bit. But I do see
he's beaten an American.
Yeah.
Therefore, he exists now, doesn't he?
Beat him
for a lot of Americans.
And he's beating better than anyone else beat him.
Yeah,
that's important.
Haney will argue otherwise. Haney will argue that he won every round.
But the fight was nowhere near as good.
Yeah,
I don't think.
But I think Haney was probably more dominant.
Oh no, he was
more dominant.
But more safety first.
But I get what you said. One of the reasons why I kind of mentioned that, I agree with you, Andy. I think stylistically, I think I mentioned this on Twitter. I think out of Lopez, Parrott, and Hitchens, I think Lopez is the best fighter out of those three. But I think stylistically and obviously name brand wise, if you're Jack Catterall, that's the fight that you want. You've seen like the Teofimo Lopez who struggled against Jermaine Ortiz, the Teofimo Lopez who really struggled against Sandor Martin, Southpaws who take the distance away.
And the other guy, what was the other guy
in his last fight?
What's the other kid he boxed? Who did you say?
I said Jermaine Ortiz. Jermaine Ortiz and Sandor Martin.
Maybe it's not so much. Maybe that other factor I mentioned of him not necessarily getting up for the fight in the way that he should.
I think it's stylistic.
Now that he's been Prograis, maybe that's not it. But I still think stylistically, it's wrong for him. Historically, when you look at his performances,
people like
he's brilliant on average.
Yeah, but this notion that Lopez kind of, he's had a few underwhelming performances in his career. He's had some fantastic ones, as we know, but he's had the Nakatani performance wasn't great. He really struggled in the Ortiz and Martin fights. Didn't look great against Pedro Campa, but I mean, that's different.
Did he box on the undercard of?
But he was brilliant against Lomachenko and Josh Taylor. So big night.
Fighters who come to him though, and I think too much. I sort of had this argument with somebody on Twitter the other day. I think too much is, you have to go on the evidence that you have in the ring. And yes, people can say that Lopez overlooked these people, but unless you're in the camp and you're a sports psychologist, you don't know that. He had the same brashness, and he was talking about Lomachenko like he was going to do this, that, and the other to him. But he had fighters in Josh Taylor and Vasily Lomachenko who both come towards you and try and make the fight. Taylor's a big, tall, super lightweight, but he doesn't fight long. He likes to get on the inside and likes to come to you. Lopez has shown in his career he can't cut the ring off. Against Sandor Martin and Jermaine Ortiz, both fights I thought he lost. And I didn't think they were particularly close fights either. I thought he really struggled in both of those fights.
But you don't have to cut the ring off with Jack Catterall.
He's not as much of a fleet-footed mover.
He doesn't dance around
He's not as much of a fleet-footed mover as certainly Martin. But Ortiz isn't either. But for that fight, that was the way he decided to run. But I also think Catterall punches harder than both Ortiz and Sandor Martin as well.
The timing you getting in is a problem. But I do think... that Lopez, when he gets from A to B, he gets there very fast. He can close that distance really quick, and that might cause Catterall trouble. You see sometimes Catterall sits and waits, and Prograis caught him a couple of times when he looked like he switched off. He hadn't switched off, he was just waiting for something, waiting a little bit too long. And there's just a little gap there where you're sort of waiting for the next move, that there is a little like blink or a pause, and he jumped on him, Prograis, and Lopez would... I think would capitalise on that and be more effective. Than
he's very explosive, isn't he, from range, and he does jump into his shots. But again, you can be timed doing that. And even when he boxed Sandor Martin, he jumped into a shot, walked into a southpaw right hook, and got dropped in that fight. Catterall, I think, is whether or not Lopez wins or not. Because the problem that you've got if you're Jack Catterall in that fight, as we kind of talked about, getting these big names, is that against Teofimo Lopez, you're very much the B-side, wherever the fight happens, whether it's over here or there. No,
it's no chance.
And winning a fight against a genuine star of the sport, boxing, in the way that Jack Catterall does, as we saw against Josh Taylor, it's difficult to do. And I think Lopez, obviously, a bigger name, certainly stateside, than Taylor. So it would be a fight where...
Win a title first, innit?
Yeah.
Just get a title. Defend.
Who do you think wins out of Power and Hitchens? Sorry, Ro.
I don't know. I have fancy Hitchens, I gotta be honest, but I don't know. But Parra was really impressive, wasn't he, against Matisse? So there, I'm not quite sure actually.
I don't really want to see Jack Catterall against Richardson Hitchens. I don't think that would be a very good fight.
That's the horrible fight for you. You want Parra, because Parra's going to come right, going to make you work, isn't he?
I think Parra's a hard fight for Catterall, because I think Parra does a lot of the stuff that Prograis was doing that had success, but I think he can show that he can do it over the 12 rounds. Got lots of energy. He's got that Aussie toughness about him as well. That he won the world title against Subriel Matias in Puerto Rico. You don't get a harder world title assignment
and
than
have
that.
To push every round, and fair to him, like. Fair to him. He's in the corner. The corner was brilliant, wasn't it? In some of those later rounds, like just go and get up there.
What a win that was, by the way. People don't talk about that. That's one of the wins of the year. Like that's a huge win.
No one saw that coming. Really, I don't think.
There's loads of good fights. If he can pick up a title, Catterall, which I think he can. He's just on his day. He can beat anyone in that weight division. Picks up a title. There's loads of good fights there for him. Loads of good fights. Listen, Dalton Smith's only 2 fights away from fighting him himself. To be fair, that's the truth of it. After he beat Zepeda, that's as good a win as anyone else has got recently, I think.
That's kind of where I was going to come to next on Regis Prograis, Andy. Kind of sort of half announced his retirement, I suppose, in the ring, but then quite quickly afterwards, like, well, I haven't made any decisions yet. And
welterweight they mentioned, didn't they?
He spoke about welterweight, spoke about bare knuckle, but you never know. Anyway, What next for Regis Prograis? Could he be, an opponent for a Dalton Smith? He's still never been stopped. That's always something that people will want to have on their ledger. And Adam Azim coming up as well. Or do you think that'll be the last that we see of him?
I think we probably will see him again, because historically you generally do see fighters again after they say they're going to call it a day, or after saying that they're thinking about it at least. He did look like he just lost a fraction, and Catterall was able to expose that and not lay it bare necessarily, because it was a really good performance. But he had the problem with the leg in the final round, which had no bearing on the fight, but it's just more evidence of kind of wear and tear, I guess.
It's the boots.
So I just feel like he's had a really good career, but what awaits him now probably is a fight against somebody on the rise who needs to get his name on their record, and it might take him losing one of them before he decides, actually, I can't do this at the level I need to be able to do it at anymore to satisfy myself. I've done well enough financially, hopefully, that I don't need to keep taking fights like that. And his pride will kick in, and he won't want to take fights like that anymore. If he takes one and he doesn't win it, I feel like that's probably what will happen.
Yeah,
He's good enough to compete. The thing is, he was competitive against a guy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, absolutely.
Who is shown his world championship material. So he won't think that I got beat by a if that was Dalton Smith in there, you go, no, where Dalton Smith is compared to where Jack is, because Dalton beat Cepeda, which is good, but Jack's beat Taylor twice. It's a different level, isn't it? And you go like, all these young up and coming kids now are just bad. If I'm getting beat by those. But Catterall's not that up and coming kid, he's already established. So I think he might have thought of it differently there. So if he does box Dalton Smith and gets beat, then I think that would be the sign to go, I agree. These kids now they're just too young and fresh and good for me now, and I've slowed enough for them to do a number on me.
When you lose that fraction, like it's the same in any sport, I guess, where you might not be the first one to admit it publicly, but you'd be the first one to know. And you might get in there one more time hoping, okay, I'll rest up, I had a few aches and pains. Everybody will tell themselves these things, and they probably know that it's not really true, and they're just lying to themselves, but they just think, okay, look, I'll just do it anyway. Let's just go down this road one more time. I'll have a rest. I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll maybe tweak things a little bit here and there. All the things that I feel like maybe could have been to blame for this, that, and the other. I'll do all of that and then see what happens. And if I arrive at the conclusion, which is pretty much inevitable, that it's nothing to do with any of that, it's me, and I don't quite have it anymore, then I can call it a day, having tried everything I possibly could. And that's why you almost always see fighters probably lose 2 out of their last 3 or 3 out of their last 4 before they decide, finally, actually, now I know it's not any of those other things, it's me. And it's time to go. The
problem is, you're losing at the very highest level. So, there's no shame in that. It doesn't mean
fine margins.
It doesn't mean you're not good. No. Go back to that in the last round with the ankle. Like, he's gone over on his ankle then, and every now and again it was okay, but every time he tried to put too much weight in it, he would struggle again. I think it's the boots. Like, boxing boots before used to be there was no sole on them at all. Because you want to move, you almost want to feel the canvas with your feet almost, and they were tight. Around your ankle and everything, it was all tight up. You have to do them tight. No, they look like the soles are that big. It looks like I don't really study them too much. But it looks like the soles are that big, and they're all loose, and they're around the leg. And you see them, they're all big. All the boots now are thick, and they're all built up. I think the boots are wrong. I think they look great. They look super flash. I don't think they're. I might be talking on my back end. I don't know. 'Cause I've never worn those boots, but they don't look great to me. And that's not the first guy in recent times who've had a problem with their ankles.
No, that's true.
One of them boxing this weekend, Robbie Davis Jr.
Yeah, Liam Smith, by the way. Maybe it's a Scouse thing, but dodgy
Scouse ankles.
Scouse ankles.
He's got a case of Scouse ankle.
But I said on a broadcast once with about Scouse with Todd Grisham, and he was like, he didn't know
no idea.
No, he would have no idea what you were talking about.
I sent him home, but. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's the boots. I think the boots are not like. Why was everyone wearing real tight boots before? Now they're all wearing the shorter ones with bigger, and they all look thicker, and the soles look a little bit bigger, and also I think there's an issue as well with the printing on the
transfers.
Canvas.
Yeah, I think so too. I've seen that a lot
for
recently.
Years now, isn't it? For a long time, and now that used to happen before.
Recently, it seems to have got worse.
Yeah. I think there's an issue with all that. I mean, and that can have look at that ankle there. If he needed that last round to win, or maybe you can push on and knock him out. When you're a puncher, you always got an opportunity, and he's looking to maybe just survive a little bit there. We weren't going to win the fight anyway, but in a closer fight, that could have been a difference. So yeah, I got some old boots. I still got my boots. If anyone wants to buy them, any of you world class fighters, size 8.
There we go. Always use an opportunity to sell. Always on the sell.
Only flyweights are looking at them. No? Size 8. What are you on about? Size 8, but I was 6.
Before we discuss the rest of the card, let's talk about a fight that we were all very, very excited about that did not happen. Michael Gomez Jr. taking Il Barry. at the 11th hour, taken in the changing rooms, kidney infection. Reece Bellotti, of course, was very, very, very unhappy, as you can imagine. He would be. Really, really tough for Bellotti at the end of a camp.
Yeah.
Not really too much to say other than that, is it?
Well, who gets paid? Do you get paid?
I was wondering that.
It used to be, like, when you weigh in, it used to be years ago, I don't know if this still, if you weigh in and the fight gets called off, you get 10% of your purse. That's what I used to be the British boxing thing. But you know, you haven't boxed and whatever. But I don't know if that's changed, if it's more, if it just don't exist anymore. But like, either way, you're not fighting. He's not, even if he gets paid, he's not getting paid for the full whack.
No.
And also, the promoter will argue, why should I pay you anyway? But then you can say, I've sold all these tickets. What about Michael Gomez? They've only gone to watch him. I mean, it's nobody's fault, is it? But like, you know, there's an argument there that they can ask for their money back, but you can't say it. I can't give my money back. It's one of those things. It's a tricky situation. I was talking to Michael Gomez about 2 hours before he went to the arena. I mean, I kind of got to get a little bit earlier than him in the hotel. And he was like, he looked fine to me. I mean, what's wrong? I'm not saying that, but he was up for the fight, and he was sort of, he was half saying like, this is my fight. I might not fight after this. He just wanted to get the British title like his dad, I think. And he was going, this might be my last fight. I know I get you. Well, if I get this, it's everything for me. So the way he was talking, I can't see why he would pull out. You know, Bellotti saying he's pulled out, he didn't want to know and stuff. And you know, if an injury is one thing. I don't know a boxer who hasn't got into a fight with an injury. Almost every fight with something. Nothing's perfect, like in any camp. But people will tell you if they got kidney infections or kidney stones or whatever, and they're supposed to be extremely painful. And if you've got a really bad issue, you're going to say, listen, I can't get off the chair. I think some people say that with kidneys, you almost can't stand up, you can't sit down, whatever it is. If that's an issue, and once the doctor said you got the problem, you're done, it's out of your hands. Once the doctor sees you, it's out of your hands. You can't fake it anymore. So, no, I don't think he bottled it. It must be a genuine issue, because he looked up for it for me, and it was a great fight. Which Bellotti was the favourite, I always thought. But you can understand why Bellotti was fuming, because it's not just a physical side of training. Like you see a lot of time when people knock out someone early, they go back to the change room, they do 2 rounds, 3 rounds on the pads to get rid of all that pent-up aggression. But it's the psychological and the mental part of the game where you're psyching yourself up, because fighting someone's scary. You can't admit it when you're fighting, but when you look back, you go, "Fucking, I used to do that." Because the fear of embarrassing yourself, the fear of getting hurt, all those things that you don't really think about, they are working in your brain. So you have to, you're geeing yourself up to a state where, even if you're not an aggressive fighter, you're getting yourself up for it. And then, and so you're Richie, it's like, it's choking you. And the only release is to fight. Or box, whatever you do, to get in there. And when you don't get that, then that fucking frustration seeps out your pores. And Bellotti didn't hold back at all. Pretty much called him a bottle job, didn't he? That's exactly what he's paraphrasing. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, he was far from convinced, I think it's fair to say. Andy, makes the fight bigger if they get it back on again? I mean, kind of in a very callous way. I'm sure Reece Bellotti won't thank me for saying that, but it's...
No, I think it does.
So it adds that additional bit of spice to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it definitely makes it bigger, because Gomez isn't going to like what Bellotti has said, even though I think if he has a good think about it, he'll understand exactly why he said it and how he's ended up saying it, because the disappointment, like Barry said, will be so extreme, it would take a pretty titanic effort on behalf of any fighter with a microphone in front of them not to say what he said. It's really the only thing you're going to say, isn't it? And it was good to hear from him, Mo, and I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed listening to it. Like he didn't hold back, and you could understand it. You could completely understand it. But as Barry said, once a doctor gets involved and they make that ruling, then that's different. Then it's not having to take a fighter's word for it, which is what we had with Ben Whittaker a few weeks ago. That was a situation where really only he knew, and I'm not questioning it, but that was the situation we had. Whereas with this, if a medical professional says you shouldn't be in there, then your team has to pull you out. It doesn't mean that Gomez will then say, "Oh, okay, well, fair enough then," and start, taking his boots off. But his team will say, "Well, this isn't happening then. Doesn't matter what you think now. This is not happening."
And the doctor won't change his mind.
And the doctor won't change his mind.
Can he?
And I completely understand Bellotti's reaction. We haven't heard from Gomez, but he will be he'll be suffering, I'd imagine, because he will know what people are saying, and he will probably understand, like I said, why they are saying what they are saying, and he's choosing at the minute not to say anything, which I think is probably a good thing. But it does make the fight bigger. It does make the fight bigger, definitely.
It was a good fight anyway, wasn't it?
It was a good fight anyway, but I feel like you could probably top a card with this now.
But whether you like it or not, the financial implications for both.
Yeah.
Neither one's a millionaire. No. Arguably, Gomez probably haven't earned anything, and Bellotti's probably still got to work. But so that's really hard to take just before Christmas as well.
Yeah.
No, because whatever you like it, we're all the same. Once you know you're getting money, you spent it in your head.
Yeah.
It's going. You know that's going somewhere, bills or holiday or whatever it is. For me, it's like. No, but whatever it is, you've spent it in your head, haven't you? You've got it. It's going somewhere. So and that's difficult for them. And I don't know if they got anything. They might not have got paid anything. I don't know. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. By the way, not true. But it's frustrating, isn't it, for everyone involved, and also for the promotion, because that was the fight that people were saying might steal the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for me, audibly, I was quite half happy. Because an hour earlier we finished.
You got to go home.
Me and Andy were going, gutted. Look at the time. No, but also, to be fair, I mean, not bless him. I feel sorry for both of those fighters, but it didn't make the show a better show. But it was better that we got the fight on earlier again, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Again, when we were all talking about, the fight's going to be on, the main card's going to be
part
earlier.
of Barry's master plan. He spoke to Michael Gomez Jr. before, and he was like, "Are you sure you're up for it, mate? It's getting a bit late, isn't it?" Yeah, exactly. You're not kidding me.
He looks slightly off.
Yeah, doctor, come and have a look at Michael Gomez Jr. Yeah. Right, okay. Meant obviously on the night that the card was reshuffled, or the deck was reshuffled, and James Joe Flint and Campbell Hatton in their rematch, Andy, was elevated to the co-main event of the evening. It was repeat for Jimmy Joe Flint, scoring a unanimous decision win over Campbell Hatton in another competitive fight, but one that Flint was always a nose ahead in.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a good fight. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed watching the first one. I thought Campbell Hatton was better in the second one than he was in the first one, which is always a good sign. But Flint was a worthy winner, and inevitably with Campbell Hatton, people will start talking about, he should pack it in. He's never going to be this and he's never going to be that. But when he turned pro, I don't really remember him saying he was going to be this or that. It was great fun when he turned over, and Ricky came and did press, and they did it together, and you could see he had personality. And I think Matthew, when asked a couple of times, Matthew Hatton said, "Well, yeah, if he keeps working hard, he could go all the way." What's he going to say?
Yeah.
What else is he going to say? He's his uncle. He's backing him. You don't want to put limitations on anyone, but yeah, it's not like he's this guy who's been talking about being a world champion or a multi-weight world champion, and I'm going to do what my dad did. He's never gone down that road. He did what he did as an amateur. And I'd just love it now if he just thought, no, this is my profession, this is what I chose to do, I'm going to stick to it. I was better in the second fight than I was in the first one, and just keeps going and sees where it takes him, and maybe wins an area title, and then once you push up and break through one ceiling, see whether you could get to the next one, which would be an English title, or just see what happens, because he does seem committed to it. It does seem like it's for him, as we like to describe it, and I think maybe now finally he will be kind of left alone a little bit to get on with it. And if he were to start boxing on smaller shows around the Manchester area, headlining smaller shows, because he will sell some tickets rather than undercarding on Matchroom shows. I'm not saying Matchroom are going to drop him, but would that be the worst thing? I don't think it would be.
I said on the night, we see trilogies and rematches, and you always think about, they always got to be at the highest level. I'd watch those two fight twice a year, every year.
So would I.
I said these two could make a living just fighting each other. It was a good fight. I'd want to see. And I spoke to Flint in his camp at the hotel after, actually, and I said, that was a really good fight. And I thought you won better this time. But I'd like to see it again. His left eye was totally closed, by the way. Come the night, totally closed, and he said it wasn't painful, but I said it was a really good fight to watch, and I just watch you two fight all the time, and again, he's never said he was going to be a world champion, but when your dad says when your dad's as famous as Ricky Hatton, as successful as Ricky Hatton, there's always going to be that line, as it was with Ben and Eubank and their sons. So you're afforded opportunities that other fighters are not going to get. You're on, you're on main cards and big fights and big bills where you haven't earned the right, but your dad's earned the right for you. So you get criticism for that. There's a pressure I wouldn't like on my son. I don't know why you'd want your kid to turn professional or why you'd encourage him to turn professional. I always find it weird.
I don't think any of them ever do they?
No, but I mean,
it's always the case.
Yeah, but I know they say that, and I'm not taking anyone out because they're all bigger and harder than me. But Ricky's not that bigger, but he's much harder. but they say that, like, but my kid wants to box. He's not a baby, but my kid wants to box, and I go, no chance. And you're never gonna box, like, nowhere near, like, but like. A little bit of me thinks I wouldn't mind because I'd love to get involved. And what if he is better than me? You know, and also I know a little bit more now than the people who taught me. I think you always know. I think, and then I could be a better fighter and all that shit. You know, and it'd be lovely, wouldn't it? But it's not because it's a shitty business. And then I sort of go, I don't. If I just thought you do as an amateur and then stop, then I'd let him do it.
But then you think, like, well, what if he's a really good amateur?
No, that's what I say. People say,
I'm having the same thing with a 3-month-old son.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, I don't want him to box. And you're thinking, but what if he's really good? And then you can do this.
Yeah, but you know what I think, though? My fear is, what if he is really good? Because it's addictive. And then you start thinking about it as a life choice then, as a career choice. And I don't want that. I'd like him to do it as an amateur, be half decent, and then pack in and do it as a sport, like aligned with playing rugby and all the other sports. But like, so these guys, they don't really want it, but when the kids do it, they do love it. Yeah. And I do understand that, because you want your kid, and also they can earn money. And like, listen, Ben and Eubank have millions, haven't they? So it's work for them. And Ricky Campbell's earned a few quid, I would imagine. I don't know much.
I would imagine for the level that he's boxed at, he's done.
Yeah, but not enough for him to go walk away on his own, I don't think. But you don't have to, like, people think if you're not going to step up a level, why should you retire?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's lost to one guy, by the way, and I mean, you know, like, not everyone's going to be a British champion. Everyone's going to be world champion, European. Let's go for every level. Your level's your level. And if you're comfortable, if you can accept you at that level, and always try and maybe strive now and again, but compete at that level, which you can, then maybe that's you. But you've got to be aware that your next, I mean, I imagine his paydays have gone down dramatically already, but your next payday drops again. So you've got to be thinking, this is not a career choice. This is I do this because I love it, but I got to find money at other places. Like, I worked all throughout my career because I realised boxing, it was only my last few fights where I didn't need to, like my last 5 fights, I didn't need to really to work. But up until that point, I needed to work, and I didn't stop working because I thought, why would I fucking stop working? I run in the morning, I train in the night. All this 3 days a week, that never existed. So, like, you know, what am I going to do all day? Do you know what I mean? Like, working it. Why don't I just go work? I mean, I was bored. I mean, when I retired, when I stopped working, I was really bored in the days. I tried that 3 days a week. I couldn't. My body was so used to doing 2 training sessions. That third one used to kill me. I couldn't do it. I'd go down to the gym in the night. I'd be knackered. So, like, I just went back to doing nothing all day. And I thought that. And I was a world champion. I was thinking, I might go work again. Not that I need the money. I did a little bit, but I mean, I just got fucking nothing to do. So, like, but these guys, they're not used to that. So he needs to think, what am I going to do to make a living? Unless his dad just gives him money, but I don't think that's not healthy for anyone, is it? But he can still, I mean, at this level now, like, I mean, by boxing people like Flint and people like that, you know, whether he's losing them all the time, I don't know. As long as he's not getting beat up and bashed up, it's not the end of the world.
If the pressure's off him now, which I think it will be,
but I don't think he sells tickets. So I don't think he sells tickets. I think he sells tickets on. I think the whole thing
as part of a bigger show.
Part of what it is, yeah. So I think.
And there's nothing wrong with having an area title fight, sitting in an undercard of a big show. By the way, I'm all for area title fights.
And I know I saw somebody talk about potentially him. You know, does he go and try and spar around America for a bit and try and get some different life experiences or wherever else?
I don't think he's going to get much better. I mean, it's hard to say about a young kid who, but I think he's sort of set the way he's going to fight. He's trying to get a little bit, learn little bits, but the way he wants to fight and the way they think he is going to fight, you haven't got the power or the strength of his dad had. Just so it is. Or you don't fight with the intensity maybe because you just grown up in a different environment. Yeah,
I mean, he looked tired after probably 4 or 5 rounds at the weekend.
Because I don't think he's big for the weight either. No. So, you know, I just think it's one of those things where you just haven't got what you need for your style. You know, the way you need to fight, you haven't got those attributes to make you more effective. So he's not an intimidating factor in front of you. He doesn't intimidate the fighters. They don't feel pressure when he's right in front of them. He doesn't have that raw power to really make you think. So you can happily block and counter, I think, and Flint showed that. And he just haven't got the physical strength to be able to bully you. Though he tries to be fair. I mean, he got loads of courage, loads of ball, you got all those other good stuff, and work rate and all. He tries that. No, he punches till you got no breath in his lungs. You want that in a fighter. But that's happened to him. That's because he haven't got all those other attributes. He's like that after 4 rounds. So it's an issue. So that's why I don't think he really steps up a level. And that's not slagging him off. That's just the reality of how the sport is. And we all find that whatever level that is at some point in your career, unless you are a superstar, we all find that. But whatever I can do is not good enough to get above where I am today. And that's it. I can't really I have.
It's like you said. It's not. It's everybody gets shown their level at some point, whatever that level is, or what their level would appear to be. That doesn't mean you then just have to retire though, because you've got to a level where you think, oh, actually, maybe I'm not good enough for this. I'll pack it in. That's not that's not a requirement. I mean, we see loads of careers where people look like they've been shown their level, and they
Bellotti.
Get up to the next one. Yeah, exactly. He's a great example, and they get up to the next one. You see some like Josh Warrington and Chris Billham-Smith who just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and get right to the very top level, and all the way through people have been saying, well, you did well to win that one, but when you step up to the next one, that'll be
exception,
you.
Aren't they?
That'll be you done. But they are the exception. But it's perfectly acceptable to have a couple of really good area title fights that come up short. Not to him it won't be, but for me watching, I think winning an area title is a big deal, and if he can get over the line and get one, could happen, because Flint's good, isn't he?
He's good all round, actually.
You get a real mix of opponents you could run into at area level, like you do at any title level. You could get the rub of the green and get someone you're better than, or you get someone who may well go above that. It's the luck of the draw, isn't it?
But what if he thought he was going to be something better than he is?
Yeah, that's difficult then, isn't it? That's difficult. Yeah.
But I don't know, because he has very experienced boxing people around him. You would have thought people have managed his probably early expectations, but you never know. It's difficult. It's a difficult balance to strike. Because
you have to stoke a boxer's
ego. I was going to say you have to make him confident, but also you don't want to set unrealistic
goals. Unless you're my father, who I love and was brilliant, but like he always went, "Whoa, calm down, son, calm down."
Right, okay. Elsewhere on the card, Barry, 10 valuable rounds for Pat McCormack, who showed plenty of good things. Got 10 rounds firmly under his belt. What did you make of his performance?
I think he's brilliant. He does everything right. But he fights at the same pace.
Yeah.
The whole fight. And I've noticed that before with him. As good as he is, and he got spiked in his punches, and he punches hard without being a real puncher. His timing's brilliant. His jab's superb. You got good feet. He can press you, makes you work hard. But he doesn't go through the gears. Like his pace, like he's boxing. I just think if he's every now and again, a little injection of pace, just change the tempo. I think me and Andy were saying that in the fight, and then like just change the tempo now and again, and you'll just blow the guy apart. Like you're just because after a while you get used to the weight of the shot, you get used to the pace of the fight, and even though you're not winning, your opponent Herrera, then you can manage it and struggle through it. But if he just all of a sudden, and he has it in him to do it, just go. And then go again, second phase, third phase. He would just be blasting people apart because he couldn't have to do it. I think he takes a shot as well. So he's brilliant. I think he's really, really good. But he needs a little bit extra to make people go, fucking hell, we got a star here. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's the first time that he's boxed in over a year. He was out for 15 months.
And sorry, the first time he did a 10 round. Yeah. He paced it really well. And I criticise him because I think he's potentially brilliant. So I'm not judging him like I would judge someone else.
We always criticise the good ones more on here.
Well, because you see the potential of what they can be. So you have to critique them. I think it was a fantastic performance. And when he showed that he had loads left in him, and at the end of the fight, And there was rounds where he thought he just took his foot off the gas a bit to save a bit, and that's a good that's intelligence. But I think he could have stopped him. I think he could have stopped him like at halfway stage. I do.
He was stopped in 7 rounds by Paddy
Donovan. Yeah. But he didn't work the body like he did against Paddy. Paddy was a body shot, wasn't it? Didn't work the body, and that's always. I know that was clear. Every time he hit him anywhere near low, the kid complained about getting hit in the bum and the hip, and they were really dined out on a couple of low blows, which they were. So maybe that was his. He thought, I'll stay away from that. I'll just hit, but he did head him a little bit. But it's not even that. I think he hits hard enough and solid enough with every shot, and also he's accurate with every punch. He's economically brilliant. So, it's also he could have stopped that kid easily. I think he's that good, and that would have been a real statement. And also because he's like, I wouldn't want to fight him. He's a hard fight for anybody, domestically right now.
Absolutely,
anybody.
Andy, you obviously covered an awful lot of Pat McCormack, stellar amateur career. 6-0 now. It's been a while since those Olympics in Tokyo. Just the 6 fights since then, obviously delayed into 2021. 6 fights in the last 3 years. Valuable 10 rounds under his belt. But do we need to see him really pushing on now in 2025, Pat McCormack?
Yeah, absolutely. The time is now, isn't it? It's been so frustrating just watching what has happened with him post Tokyo, because the way his amateur career was timed, it was almost perfect. He went to Rio when he was 21, something like that. Didn't medal but did well. Decided to stay in the system, and he just had a great Olympic cycle. I know it was frustrating for everybody because of COVID and the year delay, but he won a European Championship gold, a World Championship silver, an Olympic silver. Really good to watch. A personality as well. He's got something to say. He's entertaining in the ring and outside it. And it just hasn't really happened for him. He signed with Pro Bellum, which in the end turned out to be a mistake. But it was a mistake that loads of people made. Lots of fighters signed with Pro Bellum, and you can understand why they did. So that caused problems. But then he was picked up by Matchroom. I actually covered him on the Channel 5 card. It would have been 2022, summer 2022.
Came on after the main event.
And he somehow managed not to be on the TV broadcast, which was absolutely insane. So, yeah, things need to start happening for him, because how you can do what he did, culminating in an Olympic silver, and you look at a feather Olympic silver medalist in Ben Whittaker, and you look at the difference in their profiles, is absolutely wild. Now, they're different people, I understand that, but it's not like McCormack is not a sellable, marketable commodity as a fighter and as a person, because he is. So I'd love to see him kick on next year. I really would, because he's almost got everything you could need and want. That doesn't mean that he'll get right to the top level, but he is a TV fighter, and that really matters. And he'll be looking at his teammates, Whittaker, Fraser, the platform he's been on, Lauren Price. He'll be looking at Peter McGrail, who had the same problem, but is now boxing in a big fight against Dennis McCann. He'll be looking at McGrail, who had the same issues, signing with Pro Bellum, and who had a brilliant Olympic cycle himself, apart from at the Olympics, which caused people to kind of who don't really follow it closely to think, well, he wasn't that good. He was brilliant. Yeah. But he'll look at the fight he's now managed to get, and he'll be thinking to himself, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen, and it's got to happen this year. But it's all about activity in the end, isn't it? It's all about being active.
What's the fight for him? It's difficult to know where to place somebody like Pat McCormack.
Conor Walker.
Okay.
It's a great fight for us. That's for us. That is more.
Yeah, that would be a great fight.
It is, isn't it? Just got beat, didn't he? In a fight that could have gone either way.
Boxing Lewis Ritson at the end of November.
Who Conor Walker is.
Yeah. You'd expect it, with respect to Lewis Ritson, you'd expect
so,
Conor Walker to probably be a little bit too big and too busy at this stage of Lewis Ritson's career.
And also he takes a good shot, Walker, and he's solid and everything.
Yeah, I thought he was unfortunate against Lewis Crocker.
So did I.
I thought he could have nicked that.
So did I. Yeah. I thought he won the fight. Only because I didn't think... anyway, whatever. But I mean, that's a good fight for him. Just, because there are Paddy Donovans and
Donovan and Crocker look like they're on a collision course for next year.
Yeah, but they are definitely. And so you maybe think let them do their own thing. It's weird. He's only had a handful of fights now, McCormack. But you're right. He has got to push on now because he has been waiting around a little bit too long, inactivity with injuries, whatever else. But
29 now.
Yeah. Well, he said, so you got time, but you haven't got time to waste. You got time to still to develop. So I think Conor Walker's is a hard fight for him, and that's a way back in for Walker as well. By the way, if he can beat an Olympic medalist. But these are the fights you think you put him into now. He's a TV friendly fighter, a fan friendly fighter. But he hasn't got that X factor, that what you call Scott, the surgeon,
Ben Whittaker.
Thanks for his name. But since he had his name, your aunt God, forget who you are now. But he hasn't got that sells him outside of the sport. But he's got a better fan-friendly style to watch, and he's brilliant. So we critique him and pick him apart because he is that good. And Conor Walker bring out the best in him because you have to up the pace with Conor Walker. I think he force you to fight at a higher pace, and I think we'll see a better fighter. Or we'll see a fighter who can't cope with it. Either way, I think we need to find out. I think he flourishes as he goes up the levels because he's so good. You see how he's always on you, but he never misses with a jab. I mean, he never gets countered with a jab either. You think, well, why is that? Because you watch it. You think, well, he throws a jab, just jab with him or throw right hand to the top. He steps in with it, slides out, so he gets that judgment of the distance. Like every world class amateur boxer, they have it. They just know where they are all the time, so they know his balance is superb. He's always in the centre of his stance. Always when he moves back a bit, he takes the back foot, front foot, back foot. When he goes forwards, that keeps. When you do that, when you move your feet in the right order, and we don't always do it, it always keeps you in the centre of your stance, which means your balance is always good, which means you can always punch, and you can always move in any direction because you are in that sense. So if you have to go back and pivot either way, because you're in that position where you are like a swivel, it gives you that movement, it gives you that option to do anything. So you can punch going back, punch going forward, you can punch with weight. Theoretically, all those things you can do if you have the time and the vision to do it, but you have to move your feet first. So quite often when you move back, you move your front foot first by mistake. But that's sorting your stance, which means your balance is not perfect. But if you move your back foot, it's drills with kids, which you also do in amateur. When you move forward, front foot, back foot, 1-2, front foot, back foot, 1-2, and then back foot, front foot, 1-2, back foot, front. Well, the drills you should do as an amateur to learn how you move in the right direction. These are free lessons that you're getting off a guy who never did this shit. But it's true though, and I think it's right. And you won't notice it until you see it. Until you see it, you'll watch him and go, actually, he never leans over the back foot. He never brings that front foot out first before the back foot takes a little step. And it's only small, but it's how he keeps that balance and then that's why he's always knows where he is all the time. So he's brilliant. But there's loads of things he's not doing that he has to learn about. Now he's done 10 rounds now, he's ticked that box. But he's got to learn to up the tempo, change the gears and all that shit and go through different phases, whatever you want to call it. He needs to learn to do that in long distance fights so fighters don't last the distance and he makes it easy for himself. Because otherwise, the last thing you want to do is get the round 7 in a hard fight with a rough, tough nutter who you're much skillfully more better than, but just has a bigger will than you. I mean, we've seen fighters coach before, and then all of a sudden, they're better fighters, but they get the round 9, and the guy. Well, you don't want to be in the with a Arturo Gatti or a Mickey Ward, like they'll put someone like that who's nowhere near your level, but they're just lunatics. They
can just hang in there and make it difficult.
And they can punch, and and all of a sudden, as soon as you slow down, they up the pace. And we say that all the time by any sport. Once someone, I was saying that the other day to somebody, once you see them slow down, you up the pace. I mean, we were taught that as an amateur. If he's slow, you go more, you go hard, you go faster, and intensify their pain. That's what that does. When that puts the panic on people, they slow. You go. If you're a fighter like him who can be aggressive, then you always got to turn the screw all the time. Bully him. He can be a technically brilliant bully. That's what he is, I think. I don't think he quite knows what he is yet, but I think that's what he is.
It certainly should be helpful getting those 10 rounds in, albeit he did get a cut, which is a bit of a pain in the arse late on in the fight. Will kind of obviously slow him down.
Well, he wouldn't have gone, if you would listen to me, he wouldn't have gone 6 rounds, he would have got a cut with it. There you go.
There we go.
Thank
Barry
you.
Jones, he's offering his legal advice and his training advice today. This is It's a seminar.
I'm on fucking 85%. That's mad, isn't it?
Right.
Still cheaper than most others.
Andy, going to come to you very quickly for the last fight of the night that we're going to look at. Junaid Bostan made his return to the ring. Pretty sweet left uppercut to the body stoppage with a win over Mako Sommariva. Obviously only an 8-round, and stiffer tests to come for Junaid Bostan. Ishmael Davis, it looks as though that fight is one to be made in the not too distant future. But as far as kind of I love a body shot knockout. One shot body shot knockout, one punch KOs. Something about them, and that was a lovely, lovely shot.
It was. Watching someone get eviscerated like that it's a special kind of knockout, isn't it? And it's the delayed reaction. It's the look of genuine pain that's written all over their face, which in a way I think a civilian, a punter like me, you could kind of identify with it a bit more than watching someone get chinned, because when somebody gets knocked out and switched off by a headshot, you just think to yourself, this is not something that's ever going to happen to me, hopefully. I'm certainly not in a trade where this is ever going to happen or has happened. But the pain you see them experiencing when you get hit with a body shot, and it's like they've been tasered and they're kind of writhing around, it just seems very, very real, doesn't it, when you watch it? For me, it does anyway, and it's kind of, it makes you shudder, it makes you wince. And it was a great finish. It was a really, really good finish. And that fight with Davies looked like it was going to happen. I think it was pretty much done, and then all of a sudden it wasn't, and I think they were just waiting for it to maybe be a bit bigger. Then Ishmael obviously got a great offer to go and fight in Saudi. But that's a good fight. He's interesting, Junaid Bostan. I don't really know him, but whenever I've seen him around, I'm always kind of impressed by how kind of focused he is in terms of his outside of the ring plan. He was over in Saudi for a card recently, and I saw him at the airport on the way back, and we had a quick chat, and he was just really on it. You know, he wasn't trying to give me some kind of big speech about I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He was quite concise, but you could see that he's got real confidence, what I would always describe as real confidence. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You get this quite a lot with athletes, but because they're used to just hanging around a lot of people who are older than them, and they would have been since they were kids. But, you know, he just speaks to you with real confidence. Like, you know, it's a matter of fact what he's saying to you. He's not trying to convince you. It's like, you know, I'm telling you this, and obviously you agree because you're not an idiot.
Yeah, this is.
I like it. Yeah. You know, it's quite. He's got a good sort of interesting vibe about him.
Barry, Junaid Bostan versus Ishmael Davis. That do it for you? You like that?
Good fight, isn't it? It's an ambitious fight as well, I think. You know, because like Junaid's a real talent. He's big for the weight as well, big and strong, and he finds those angles, as we saw Saturday night. He's he's been in some fights where he's had to dig through a little bit.
That Gordy Russ fight we were out in Phoenix.
Yeah, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with the performance. I understand that, but you know, they're good learning fights for him. You look at it and you go, oh, you know, because all of a sudden you're not just dominating everything, but they're better fights for you. They're ultimately the better fights for you. People forget about almost everyone has fights like that. You don't really, but nowadays everyone's fights are on TV, so you see every fight. But like most fighters had fights like that, you just never saw them. I mean, every fighter, I bet you've had fights like that on the way up. So, you know, I think those fights, he benefits from that. I think he's learned from that. I think he was in a favour against Davis. I do. I think the people go on about Davis is a good kid. I mean, and he's gone good really quick. And the Troy Williamson fight, you know, was fantastic for him. But they go about the Kelly fight, and he late notice. He did take a late notice, of course he did, and he did well. And he stayed in there for every round, but he was being totally outboxed for almost all the fights. You know, like it was pretty much almost every round, except for the last round. When
he got to him.
And
Judges didn't see it that way, but I think
it looked like a one-sided fight. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and even ringside, we all talked.
Yeah, we all had it the same, didn't we?
But you know. But he took a late notice, and he has that belief that they'll fight. So there's two guys there with real self-belief and confidence and ability. But Boston is the harder puzzle, I think, and also he's showing now he's getting a bit more man strength. So yeah, so I take it. I mean, he can afford not to take it and wait. That's the truth of it, and just keep learning. But he has that, like he has that ambition. He don't want to wait around. doesn't want to wait around because the chance that he's going to move up in weight pretty soon. You would have thought. And he doesn't say he's struggling for the weight, but he's big. So,
He's got the frame for it as well.
He's big and he's young. Yeah, he's definitely going to move up. His head's big as well, so you tend to think he's going to have to move up to accommodate the size of that Conceicao. No, I'm joking. He's a lovely kid and all. He's respectful, but confident. So he's respectful. If you say something you don't like, he'll tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
and I like that.
Yeah,
I like that about him. Yeah, he's not just. You don't just say
and
shit.
It's not. I'd imagine with him, it wouldn't be a problem. He wouldn't have a tantrum. It'd just be.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So he doesn't say he's not just trying to oversell himself by saying those shitty stuff. But if you say something you don't like, he'll tell you.
I remember. So after he boxed at Gordy Russ, what was it? 8-rounder.
I think so. Yeah.
8-rounder. I had it 5 rounds to 3 for Bostan on the night, and I think the general feeling or the feeling amongst them was that it was 6-2, and I had it 5-3. I remember saying to Junaid immediately after the fight, like, yeah, I had you winning the fight at 5 rounds to 3. And I remember it was the same night as Sonny Edwards against Bam Rodriguez, and after Sonny lost the fight, I went to go and interview him, and I remember, and Junaid was sat in the sort of outside in the corner, and he hadn't spoke to him about the fight until then, and it was quiet for about, I don't know, a couple of minutes wherever he went, I'm really sorry, Rob, but that was never 5-3. And he just sat there. It must have been 3 hours. He just ticking it over in his mind. And I was like, okay, mate, no worries, 6-2. But yeah, I remember thinking at the time, like, really means that much to you. That's really good. Like, not that he cares what I think, but like, just in general, that you thinking that much about kind of what you're doing. I remember that night thinking, as everybody else did, I think at the same time, like, that was the perfect learning fight, provided you learn from it.
Not for him. He don't feel that way, but everyone around. If you learn, which he has, then
that's exactly right. Yeah, it's the perfect learning fight if you learn from it, and it looks as though he has done since then. I think he's got a little bit more settled down in the ring now. I think before he was probably doing a little bit too much when he was in there at times.
You learn the pace. I had one early in my career against Miguel Matthews. Like, I thought for 3 or 4 rounds I was like Sugar Leonard in my mind. I thought peppering him everything. The last 2 rounds, they run for my life. He just walked me down, took it. I wasn't a big puncher. He just took it, bump, okay, yeah, whatever. And then, he couldn't get to me. And if he said, no, and they all go, if I would have tried to win, I would have won. But that wouldn't have been the case, I don't think. Though he always says to this day, he beat me. But the last 2 rounds, I had to run. I mean, I might have won one of those rounds that I run, to be fair. But I mean, and I realised, actually, it's not all about going full out straight away and showing everything. So that was early, man. You learn. And he never really had them, I don't think. He was just doing what he wanted to do, and it was working for him. And that's the fight where you go, actually, if I go too fast too soon by trying to show everything and it doesn't have an effect, then what do I do then? Anyway, he's a good kid, plenty of talent. If him and Davis is next, but I don't think he will be. If they're next, it's a good fight for him. And even if he doesn't win that fight, he's young enough to go again. I'm pretty sure. But I mean, I'd be confident he could do a job.
Okay, we're looking ahead to this weekend. We've only got time to preview. We're going to preview both main events, and we're going to start off for the main event coming from Birmingham. And they're going to come to you for Liam Davies versus Shabaz Masoud. We've got there in the end. I think it's been delayed. Obviously been much talked about for a little while as well. Terrific fight at super-bantamweight. We've got quite the contrasting styles, both personality-wise and boxing-wise. Really, really solid fight this weekend, and I know one that you'll be looking forward to as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love this
really
one. I really do. It's great. It's got that kind of, in a sense, it's a little bit of a local derby because Liam Davis is from pretty much where I'm from, a little known county called Shropshire, which people probably won't have heard of, but it's not that far away from Birmingham, so it's the ideal venue for it. It's Shropshire versus Staffordshire, which is the bordering county. So there's local interest there. There's kind of bragging rights, all of that, and it's just got really good ingredients all round. It's been really interesting to me to see Davis make the progress he's made. I remember first seeing him during COVID. He turned up on a Sky show and he had a good win. He had a quick win, and I'd looked into him and had a chat with the team because, as I say, he's from Telford, which is just down the road from where I grew up, Richie Woodall country, and they hadn't for a while since the days of Richie at the ice rink. They hadn't really had a fighter, but I knew that there was a fan base there, that there was an appetite for it, and that's absolutely proved to be the case. And
Good venue as well, isn't
It's
it?
a good venue, and Davis has got something about him, hasn't he? And he's one of these guys who you didn't really know what his level was going to be, and we still don't know, which is great because he's stepped up and up and up. Yeah, loads to like about this, loads. I'd imagine the atmosphere in there on Saturday will be tremendous as well.
Barry, stylistically, you've got Shabaz Masoud, who kind of customarily boxes on the back foot, switches and whatever else, against somebody in Liam Davies who's kind of developed into a really impressive boxer puncher, I think, over recent bouts in particular. On the back of 3 stoppage wins, he blew out Jason Cunningham in a round, had that win over Vincenzo Lefemina, who was an insane Italian, who also put Davies down. I think people forget about that. And then he had that really, really impressive stoppage win over Eric Ayala, who we all
McGregor.
I was going to say, who we all know what a handful he can be. So really nicely poised matchup from a stylistic point of view as well. What does each man need to do in order to win on Saturday?
Everyone thinks Davis is the favourite. I think a lot of people think he's just going to walk through Masoud. I think that you'd be mistaken. You'd be quite shocked that that's not going to happen. I think if you look at Masoud in his fight against
Jose San Martin.
I was there that night, and he boxed really well, but then struggled a little bit with the relentless pressure. And it might be a lack of real raw power, maybe. But he's hard to pin down. See, because Davis is quite, actually Davis, because he's quite conventional, hands high, works everything beyond the jab, which you should. You can easily be mistaken that he's just one-dimensional, but he's not, because he can step back and throw an uppercut. Thinking that he's just going to come forward with straight shots all the time. He can shorten his game quite quickly, and he hits hard and he hits clean. I don't think he's a massive, devastating puncher people think he is, but I think he's a solid puncher. But because he hits clean, because he turns from the hips and gets it right down the line, it's a direct shot, and you don't always see it because he gets a bit of speed on it. So I think he can hurt you, and I think that ultimately that it might come down to that. He's got to make Masoud work hard for every second of every round. So he's going to be the one trying to put the pressure on Masoud all the time. Masoud's got to try and make him spin. Masoud's got to go 2 steps back, pivot either way, and try and have the biggest part of the ring to his back always. And Davis got to try and do the other thing, the opposite. Make sure Masoud is on the ropes all the time. Make sure if he takes more than 1 step back, he feels that rope straight away or that corner. So he's got to be a little bit patient with someone like a mover like that. You've got to be patient and use the jab all the time. It's not going to land, but use the jab all the time. But more importantly, when you jab, you've got to take a step. And whether you're sliding to the left or you're stepping to the right, you've got to make that ring a 20-foot ring. You've got to make it like a 4-foot square, triangle, rectangle, or whatever you want to call it. You've got to put him in a smaller space. So then all those little pretty moves that he does, where he's setting you up, he has to take a little step before he goes anywhere. So if you take that step back away from him, Masoud, then he's just leaning out of distance and he's in trouble. And because Davis is a nice long puncher, you've got someone leaning back. You might miss with the jab, but he'll commit with that right hand. If he gets you on the end of that shot, you've got nowhere to go. Your balance is done. You're done. And then when you are close, for Davis, when you are close, you've got to take that little step to the side to get that, because you've got a fantastic uppercut to get that uppercut into play. But the left hook got the right uppercut, you've got to get that into play by taking that little angle off, without allowing him to escape. And for Masoud, you got to tempt Davis to overreach. So you got to be faster with the jab. You got to be flicking that punch out first. You got to be fast, but you got to be going bump, lean back, come back with something straight away. You got to go first and third if you're Masoud, first and third all the time. Even if the first punch doesn't hit, you got to go bam, make him miss, make him pay. Bam, make him miss, make him pay. You got to be thinking that route all the time. And then if he does try and rush you, you do take any more than 2 steps, you got to go left or right, and then when you do, then you got to throw in combinations before Davis turns. Because if Davis can turn on you and he's a heavier punch, you don't want to be punching with Davis. That's the last thing you want to do. And so they're my routes to victory.
There we go.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really good fight. But ultimately, you have to say, when it comes down to it, you do think that the better quality of opposition that he's boxed, I think, and also the power and strength will play a big factor, certainly after those early stages.
Been consistently busier as well.
Yeah, Masoud suffered from the same thing as McCormack, Probellum, basically. The only time I've seen him live from ringside was at that show in March 2022, where we did a show on the Friday night and the Saturday night, and he was up against Johan Boyer.
Oh right, yeah. The guy boxed in away, yeah.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with him. Had a chat with him during the week, and I remember coming away from that just thinking, yeah, this guy can definitely do something. But it's been difficult for him since then, for business reasons, contractual reasons. But this is the opportunity that he needs, isn't it?
Yeah, I had that win over Jack Bateson, didn't he?
Yeah.
And looked very good that night.
We had him on BT early, before it went downhill. But early on his career, he was up in Leeds, I think it was. I think he boxed. And it was like his sixth fight or something like that. And I thought he was a real bag of tricks. But he had the ability to move and punch at the same time, which is really difficult. You know, like that. I know like that almost like that Sheffield Ingle thing where they hit you on the spin. So you don't get loads of power on the shot, but it just frustrates the shit out of you. Because and also it clams you up. So he's adapted a bit more now. When he tries to get more weight in the shots, so he's not so as fleet-footed as he was then. Be careful. So. But because the false set's going to knock down. Yeah. So you know he's a bag of tricks, and I think he can give Davis a really hard night, and it's not out of the realms of he's a live dog in this fight, and I wouldn't be shocked if he makes Davis just a nightmare, makes him miss. If Davis goes in thinking I'm on the verge of boxing a new way, which everyone's telling him. I don't think everyone's telling him that, but Dev's telling him. But and don't play this. You got to I'm not a fan of Dev, but you got to sell your product and you got to bash it out. Shout out Dev.
Anyway,
no, I'm joking. But you got to. No, I think it's you got to keep selling this. But if he thinks he's on the verge of maybe something like that, and then thinks I just got to walk through this guy and batter him, which is always a potential he could do that, and then finds it really frustrating. We know these fights where you think, oh shit, this is not the fight I thought it'd be. But I think he knows Masoud, doesn't he? And he knows how clever and tricky and good he can be on his night. So I think he'll take it serious. But either way, it's a hard night and it's a really good fight. I mean, it's a fight that people that won't be mega excited about, but I think it's a brilliant matchup.
Very much so. Andy, just before we move on, for the IBO super bantamweight title, which of course Liam Davies won last time out. Barry mentioned it there. Naoya Inoue has got the super bantamweight division locked up, undisputed champion. How far away do you think the winner of Davies Masoud are from challenging for a world title? Obviously, there are world champions, and then there's Naoya Inoue. But do you think the winner of this, after that, they should be thinking about world titles? Should be looking for world titles, or if you're there, do you just try and wait for something to pop up?
I think you've got to just approach it in the way that you would approach it regardless of the fact that you've got the monster in your division, because I think if you play that kind of game whereby you're waiting for someone to move on, that's dangerous. Now I understand that boxing in a way is also dangerous, but I think if you're going to try and hedge your bets and do something other than what you would normally do, when you're at the start of a career and you're looking to plot a journey, which obviously is a very difficult thing to do, and you'll have a plan and it'll almost always not end up turning out the way that you think it will. But one thing you would always have in mind is that when you feel like you've gone through the levels and the next thing is to box for a world title, then that should be what you try and do, regardless of who you're going to end up having to go in there with. And whoever wins this, particularly should Davis win it, what else is there, really? And I know that nobody would back him against Inoue, and everybody would understand why not. But at the same time, if you find yourself in that position and he's the champion, then you fight him, don't you?
Lloyd Hennig can beat Donald Curry, you know what I mean? It's like miracles happen, but you wouldn't put any penny on it. I mean, again, you're right though. When you say, if the winner calls out Inoue, everyone's going to go, oh, for fuck's sake. But what are they going to do? Yeah. What else can they say? I mean, there's other fights out there for him, of course. There's good fights out there for him, domestic level, European level. But certainly, let's go for Davis. He seems to be the one who's sort of a bit more advanced. What's he going to do? Is him versus Inoue any worse or better than Inoue versus Doheny?
No,
I don't think he was a former world champion, of course, and he had a relationship with the Japanese public because he boxed with them before. But I mean, for everyone else, arguably Davies is a harder fight because he's the one on. He seems to be on the ascendance more. Arguably, so it's and if Inoue just wants to fight anyone and everyone, I'll just fight all comers. I don't know what their plan is. I think you tend to think there's fight.
He's boxing Sam Goodman on Christmas Eve, isn't he? And then
but I mean, but then you tend to think there's going to be Nakatani Akhmadaliev. I still really want to see Inoue against John Real Casemiro, and John Real Casemiro had a really good win a couple of weeks ago. Blew the weight because it's John Real Casemiro, isn't it? That's what he does. But he also knocked out a very good. He boxes out the
he literally he could fight a welterweight and still blow the weight. But he come in and knocked out Sal Sanchez in a round. Got banned by the Japanese Commission again for the game is the game. But Inoue Casemiro was done. I don't know if people remember before COVID kind of put pay to the summer schedule. It was done for Mandalay Bay, and I booked it. Inoue versus Casemiro, Mandalay Bay. God, that would have been such a brilliant fight. That would have been a good one to catch up with. But the other option, potentially at least, is the winner of McCann versus McGrail.
Oh yeah,
that's been a fight that's been mooted. McCann versus Davies has sort of been built quite next to. It's been built not next to each other. Davies has been built ahead, and I think he mentioned a few months back, McCann's been winning the belts that Davies has vacated, which I think he's quite enjoyed saying that to him, hasn't he, Andy?
Yeah, and that creates an entertaining narrative in itself. And those two fights are both Queensberry versus Matchroom, aren't they?
Yeah,
both Queensberry versus Matchroom. I just thought of that. That's quite interesting. So, yeah, you've got two semi-finals there potentially, and that is a good fight, yeah. I mean, McCann-McGrail, I'm all over that one as well. That's because
fight, isn't it?
They had a good back and forth at the press conference last week. It was one of those ones where you didn't really emerge from it any the wiser because you couldn't really understand what anyone was saying because everybody's talking at the same time. But that as a matchup is great, and it's one of the best fights on that card outside of the main event. I would say it probably is the best fight on that card.
If the chips fall in the right direction, if you're Queensberry, then if Inoue is still the undisputed champion, and if you're in the Queensberry camp, you can make Liam Davies versus Dennis McCann as a final eliminator or something like that. Then why not? It would be a fantastic fight.
They want to keep them separate, don't they?
You would think so, or it'd have to be for a world title
because those titles will fragment.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Potentially, though, because they haven't so far, and Inoue has kind of reached that level of financial clout where he gets to turn around and say to a Murodjon Akhmadaliev, okay, all right, mate, I'll vacate the WBA and you can go and fight Joe Bloggs for it, and you can get paid this much, or you can wait your turn and I'll get to you.
It's one of those scenarios, isn't it, where
no one stripped Canelo until the IBF when he sort of is like, okay, well,
it's one of those situations though where having a really experienced team and promoter around you is crucial, isn't it? Because they'll be allowing, if it transpires, they'd be allowing Liam Davies to believe that they're going after the Inoue fight when in reality they're not, because they're having other conversations and they'll have a timeline in their head and they'll have things to base it on around what may or may not happen with the belts, being dispersed to the wind, and then you can do that because the fighter will want to fight whoever the champion is. Davis will genuinely want to fight Inoue.
Yeah, of course.
That's how they are, isn't it? They will genuinely want to fight Inoue, but other people may not be quite so keen.
I know, so it'd be life-changing money for you to go over
there. Of course, go over to Japan.
You're not getting the same, isn't it? For what they're earning for the little guys, but yeah, it's a good little, but domestically for us, it's a wicked fight, isn't it?
Just looking at some of the other names at £122 as well. Marlon Tapales, of course, former unified champion. Murodjon Akhmadaliev, who's WBA mandatories, can't see him doing it. Lewis Neary, still down there, of course, knocked down Inoue.
Is Akhmadaliev boxing in December now?
He's boxing in Monaco, isn't he?
Yeah.
Who?
Akhmadaliev,
yeah, I saw that was recently announced. Guy who I like the look of, I don't know if you saw him on the DAZN card fairly recently. He boxed Azat Hovhannisyan, Alan Picasso Romero. He's good, Mexican.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
24 years old, 30-0-1. Just did a good 12 rounds with Azat Hovhannisyan. He's one to watch. That Picasso, I think he's really, really good. Okay, and final one from this week. We look ahead to this weekend. Very, very controversial first fight has resulted in a rematch, Andy, for Robson Conceicão's super featherweight title. Just making sure I'm getting that done the right way. Of course, many people, I think we all agreed, felt that Robson Conceicao was somewhat fortunate in the first fight against O'Shaquie Foster, but they are going to do it again this weekend.
They are, and it's good to see because, I agree. You watched that first fight and it was one of those ones where it did leave you scratching your head a bit, but then at the same time, it maybe didn't get the outrage, if that's the right word, that it might have got, because I think we all felt like what goes around comes around to an extent. And Conceicao himself had maybe been slightly unfortunate. It's a good fight, isn't it? I mean, it's another. Jackie Foster, I've been impressed with, because again, he was somebody else I saw in that week out in Dubai, and I didn't really know too much about him, and his backstory was interesting when you looked at some of the things that had happened to him. But I'd never really seen him, so I didn't really know what to make of it. And same trainer as Regis Prograis, and they all seemed very, very, very confident in him. And then he delivered that night. I remember walking away from that thinking that, again, there were real possibilities with him. And he's gone on to show that he is absolutely that level of fighter.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Barry, first fight, obviously, I think many people, I think we were all in agreement as well, had O'Shaquie Foster winning the fight. What does he need to do differently this time around? It felt like some of those rounds kind of in hindsight, I don't get me wrong, we all scored the fight for him, but does he really need to rubber stamp those rounds? Because he's another fighter in O'Shaquie Foster who can at times coast through, albeit, I think we all felt that he won the fight.
The thing is, he was blocking a lot of shots quite comfortably, but maybe from a different angle. From a different angle, it looks like the shots are landing. I think Conceicao got credit for throwing punches, but not landing punches. And I think that maybe that's the issue there. But I think you just got to do the same thing again. Got it, and you've won the fight. You've won the fight. They haven't given it to you, but you've won the fight. I mean, you're going to intensify it a little bit more, but you don't want to be making silly mistakes. So you just got to believe, if I do it again, the judges will do the right thing. Surely.
Mentally, that's hard, isn't it? How you approach it. Rematches are difficult mentally anyway, but I think that we almost had a similar kind of conversation about this with Tyson Fury during the week at the press conference, where are you going to change it up and do anything different? And he just said no. I feel like I won that first fight, very, very close fight, and I feel like I need to do what I did that night, stylistically, tactics-wise, just better. That's the way to do it. Why would I just now suddenly decide I'm going to walk him down because other people have tried that and it hasn't worked, and that's not my strength anyway. Or my strength is that I can do it more than one way. But you've got to be mentally very kind of robust, haven't you, to just have it in your head that no, I did win the first fight, if you're O'Shaquie Foster, and do what you've just outlined there. I guess it was one of those defeats where, and I mean, it definitely was one of those defeats where I don't think he even really entertained the idea at the final bell that he hadn't won.
No
did we?
No.
Yeah, you're talking about, if you're commentating on it, it's one of those ones where you're talking about it like he's won, he's going to get it. Of course, he's going to get it, and then he doesn't get it, and you just don't know what to say.
That's the difference. So, see, with the Fury fight, that was close.
Yeah, no, they're not the same.
This one, you think you won it. Now, why it wouldn't change? Because it wasn't close, was it? He won it clear enough. So you think I've won this clear enough? Yeah. I mean, he probably thinks he won it more than what we did, what we thought. But still, there's no argument who's won that fight. So you gotta just see that if they do their job, I'll do my job, and I did my job. That's what you think. So I just do it again. If it's a close fight, you go. I do. You're gonna like Fury and Usyk. Go. They're both thinking that whatever they tell you, they don't tell us shit nowadays. They'll just go, yeah, but I'll just do this a little bit more, or I'll do less of that, or don't fucking joke. Or when I got him on hurt, I do need to pressurise him a bit more. Well, he's just thinking, I probably couldn't have done any more without taking a silly risk. So I try to be more aggressive. I try to be stay a little bit physically stronger, and no, I tried not to coast as often as I do in other fights. What do you want me to do? Can't do any more than what I could do. He couldn't do any more than what he could do. I don't think he could do any more. And I mean, against a guy, Robson Conceicao is good, by the way. He's a good fighter. So it's him who needs to. Who might have, even though he won the fight, he might think, listen, I can do more now. Cause I know whatever way he looks, he's got to go. If I have a touch there. If you're real to yourself, you got to go. I've had a touch there. It's a hard fight, so I got to try and be a little bit better than I was. I don't know whether he can be actually, because he's had some hard luck, haven't he? To be fair, he had some real hard luck.
Beat Oscar Valdez.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. And then there was the argument about whether or not he beat Manuel Navarrete as well.
I think with Navarrete, because he slaps a bit, don't he? Conceicao, I think, in America.
He does.
They're not fans. They're not fan of that at all.
He's still never really adapted his style from the amateurs.
No, but he's actually achieved more than I thought he would. I didn't think he'd do much as a pro, to be honest. I could see why they.
And he had some really worrying signs in some of his earlier fights as well. I remember before he boxed Oscar Valdez, I think a couple of fights before, he got really dropped. Dropped a couple of times in a 10-rounder. And he got very, very fortunate to escape with the win. Can't remember who he boxed. And he's been a bit like this a few times, hasn't he? And he's getting
froze a bit.
He's getting up there in age now as well. He's 36, so making the weight and boxing over 12 rounds anyway, when you're so conditioned and accustomed to boxing over a short format, is and changing the style and doing all of this as well. Now Sharky Foster very much does have a pro style. Looking forward to that one this weekend.
It'll be a good fight. I think it'll be a good fight and a bit of spice as well. Ultimately, this helps Foster's career. It's weird, isn't it? Because of the manner of the defeat, I think, and the build-up would be different. I think this will help his career, because it puts chances a bit more light on the fight than it would have if it would have just been a normal rematch.
And 130 is absolutely wide open for somebody to just go in there and take the division by the scruff of the neck. It's absolutely wide open. So looking forward to seeing some activity over the next year or so.
Is Kakachi still IBF champion?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the situation
He's the IBF,
was,
the WBA's Lamont Roach, who I think is fighting Gervonta Davis.
He doesn't really want this mandatory, Kakachi, does he?
Who's his mandatory?
Was it Nunes, Eduardo Nunes?
Oh, yeah, Sugar Nunes. Yeah, he's a good fighter.
But why couldn't he defend his title against Warrington?
Because Warrington's coming off the back of a loss, wasn't ranked.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, not in this day and age, that's bollocks.
But you've got like
Batagaziev,
who we were talking about earlier. Oscar Valdez is boxing Emmanuel Navarrete. Again, Emmanuel Navarrete, never a lightweight, is now back down at 130 pounds. So he's going to be a handful when he comes back down as well. But so it's really wide. One of the more wide open divisions in boxing, really without that kind of number one in there. Okay, right, we've come to the end of this week's show. We are going to do predictions. Barry, going to start with you for Liam Davies versus Shabaz Masoud.
I think in a really competitive fight, so I don't upset anybody. I do. I think it'll be a really competitive fight, but I do think that strength and power will prevail. So I think Davies stoppage in the 10th.
Okay, Andy?
I think Davis as well. I think logically you have to pick him. I think points.
Okay, I'm going to go for Davies as well. Points. I think the early rounds are really, really crucial in the fight. If Masoud can frustrate him, and Masoud has to be ahead after 3 or 4 rounds.
I think he can.
He can, but he could also get hit with a shot early on. And if I'm sure Davies is going to be very wary of the fact that he can't allow Masoud to settle early on, and he's going to come out fast.
But even if he does, he just got to make Masoud work harder than he wants to for any success, and that's the key. Anyways.
But if you're Masoud, you've got to be ahead after 4 rounds.
Yes,
if you're not ahead after 4 rounds, then it's going to be a really, really tough night. Okay, and then Andy, going to come to you first. I was going to say, will it be repeat or revenge? It's kind of difficult when you've got a first fight that was so controversial. But Robson Conceicao versus Sharky Foster.
Foster points, as it should have been the first time.
Barry?
Yeah, I'm as well. I think he boxes the same way, and everyone gets it right this time.
Okay, 3 for 3. I'm also going to go for Sharky Foster points. So yeah, we're all in agreement, apart from Barry's gone for the stoppage in the Liam Davies fight. I could see that as well. Sort of the only outcome I can't really see in that fight is Masoud by stoppage.
No.
But yeah, looking forward to that. But yes, that's all we have time for today on the Boxing Show. Thanks very much to our esteemed panel of guests, Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke, and to you for sitting there and listening to us ramble for the best part of the last couple of hours. We'll catch up with you next week.